Miss Carrie here from Miss Carrie's Creations. I'm going to show you how to heat emboss vellum using a stencil. In this video, I will be showing you how I created the gorgeous vellum background for my page, and I'll share some techniques for creating a simple layout using perspectives from Bramble Fox. I can't wait to share this project with you. On my desk, I have the November Foxbox Plus collection. In the Foxbox Plus, you receive the stencil and paper snips, in addition to all the perspectives that come in the Foxbox. So if you're a fan of stencils and paper snips, the Foxbox Plus is something you will enjoy. On my layout, I'm going to bring in a few of those paper snip items like the cup, book, and this little circle image. The memory I'm recording is a few of our daughter's favorites, so I want to use the Home Comforts title and the little coffee cups. I'll also be using elements from this paper collection that match the perspectives really well. As I create the layout, I'll bring in a few other supplies and I'll make sure to add them to the list in the description below, along with a link to the November Foxbox. The photo I selected is one that our daughter took while she was reading and enjoying one of her favorite snacks. I'm going to use the Home Comforts title for this memory. Now, I haven't taken off the protective covering yet, so you will see a little bit of blue on the top. Behind the photo, I'm going to create a frame with this really large tag. Before I add the other items to the page, I need to create something that separates this busy background from the photo. At this point, everything on the page is blending together. So I'm going to bring in a strip of vellum that will mute that background pattern a bit. This helps the photo and the perspective stand out. I'm one who likes little details on my pages, so I'm going to bring in a geometric stencil from the November kit to create a separation between the elements and my background paper. The paper patterns I selected has some gold elements in it, so I'm going to bring more of that color to the page with gold embossing powder. Just like any embossing project, you need to dust this with a little bit of anti-static powder. Vellum tends to be extra staticky, so the powder is going to help reduce it. I'm going to place the stencil off the edge of the vellum a bit because I want this to look like pattern paper. I am using a distress embossing ink. The small dauber at the end will assist me as I fill in all the shapes. You can also use an embossing ink pad and smush it over the design. When I was creating the sample, I tried to apply the ink by pouncing and swirling. I discovered that the pouncing didn't quite fill in all of the shapes, and it gave me more of a distressed look, while the swirling filled in all the spaces. Honestly, I like the look of both, so if I were you, I would choose the application that fits the theme of your page. Vellum tends to soak in the embossing rather quickly, so I'm going to create the stencil pattern in phases. I'm going to sprinkle some gold powder over the design and tap off the excess. This is a fine gold powder, which gives me a smoother surface. You can also use textured, tinsel, or distress embossing powder to create a completely different look. If you do end up with a few flyaways, like I did, you can use a fine paintbrush to remove them. Even with the anti-static powder, vellum has a tendency to still get a few flyaways, and this is a simpler way to fix it before heating the powder. Vellum does have a tendency to burn and warp when too much heat is applied, so you need to be very careful when you heat the powder. I like to make sure that I've heated up the embossing gun first. Once it's up to temperature, I'm going to turn this upside down on my desk so that the heat flows upward. I'm going to hold the vellum about 3 to 4 inches away from the heat gun. As you can see, the powder starts melting really quickly, so I need to keep that vellum moving. Vellum does not disperse the heat like a thick piece of paper, which is why it has a tendency to burn. This fine embossing powder is finished when it's nice and smooth and shiny. If it starts to bubble, you are too close to the heat source and you need to move it upward. As I continue to heat the rest of the pattern, I would love it if you tap that subscribe button and let me know that you're new here. If you're already a subscriber, let me know that you're enjoying today's project by tapping the thumbs up icon or leaving me a comment below. I would love to know if you plan to try this technique. Alright, now that the first section's complete, I'm going to continue my pattern. As I was heating this, I did touch that vellum, so I'm going to go back over it with the anti-static tool. As I lay this stencil down, I'm going to overlap the previous pattern so that a few of the gaps are filled in. With a dauber, I'm able to add ink to those random shapes without getting any ink in the other spaces. Just like before, I'm going to swirl this over the pattern. Once the stencil is filled with ink, I can repeat the same process as before. I'm going to go off camera, finish this up, then I will share the completed embossed background with you. So here is what that background looks like when we're all done. Don't you just love the shininess and dimension of that random pattern? This would look great on almost any scrapbook page or as a card background. You could also create vellum florals or leaves with this technique. Alright, let's go ahead and start assembling the scrapbook page. Here is that background piece with the gorgeous vellum across the center. If you have used vellum before, you know that it is difficult to adhere in place. I decided to stitch the vellum in place because I don't have adhesive that doesn't show through vellum. If you don't want to stitch it, you can purchase a vellum adhesive, or you could add your adhesive under the photo and other items you plan to add to the page. This will tack the vellum in place, and the adhesive is going to be hidden by the other pieces. I also placed my pattern paper onto some cardstock to create a frame. I want to make sure that the focus remains on my photo. The frame not only creates a stop in the pattern, it also helps draw your eyes to the center of the page. My photo is being placed over the large tag on the left side. Most people read from left to right. Placing the photo over here on the left makes it the first thing people will see when they look at the layout. Behind my photo, I'm adding a little pocket that was cut from this pocket die. I cut it from a floral pattern so that I could create a large floral within the smaller ones. The yellow hue of the pocket also matches the gold embossing and some of the yellow in the other patterns. This die has score marks, so I'm folding each of those tabs in to create my pocket. On the back, I'm adding double-sided tape to those folded tabs. Make sure your adhesive is only on the tabs, otherwise the pocket will have exposed adhesive where your tag slides through and that tag might get stuck in place. If I had planned ahead, I would have put the pocket down first, but I did use some thick foam tape underneath that tag, so I have plenty of room to slide my pocket underneath. This is going to be about the comforts of home, so my journal card has a list where she can write down all her favorites. Below the photo, I'm bringing in some horizontal lines to ground it and help it stand out. I'm trying my best to stick with the golden yellow and rose pink color palette. The reddish pink hues help draw your eye to the cherries in the photo. I also want to keep this page simple, so I don't want to add too many more colors. Now I'm going to bring in all of those Bramble Fox acrylic perspectives. Like I said, these have a protective sheet over them. It's designed so that the acrylic doesn't get scratched during cutting, storage, or shipping. Most of the perspectives also have that covering on the back. Make sure that you take it off, or the adhesive you use will stick to that backing sheet, and over time, the perspective will fall off your project. The Comforts of Home title is going to be placed on the far right, and I'm sitting a little circle sticker next to it to connect the title to the photo. The sticker has a hello sentiment in the center, and I'm going to cover it with these little books that came in the November Fox box. I'm just going to stack these like you would a set of books and cover up the sentiment. Now you could also stack these vertically if you wanted. They would look really cute over the top of a title. I'm also laying my books a little wonky, but if that bothers you, feel free to align them to the left or right. Off to the side, I'm going to add those sweet little pink coffee cups. As I said, there is no coffee in the photo, but she's a lot like her mother, so I know that there was some coffee nearby. I am using a little foam tape on the perspective title so that it pops up over this circle sticker. I'm trying to stick within my yellow and rose pink color palette, but the title added another color. I need to bring in something else that has that color. I've cut a strip of pattern paper in that soft muted brown, and I'm going to stick it right here above my photo. This creates the illusion of a vertical line behind the photo and creates a diagonal line across the page. So I started out with pink and yellow, brought in some muted brown, and now I see that I have this bluish color in the books. It looks just fine sitting there, but I have discovered that if there is only one piece on your page in a certain color, your eyes get drawn right to that piece. So I'm going to bring a little bit of the blue above the photo, which will add to the diagonal flow I've created. On the paper snip sheet, there is this little phrase that says delicious treat, which I think fits the cherries and the coffee elements I added. I prefer to cut my paper snip phrases with a metal ruler and a craft knife because I get a better cut, but I have seen others cut these out with scissors. Those people are absolutely talented because I can't cut a straight line to save my life. I'm also going to bring in the little coffee cup on the paper snip sheet. It fits within the color palette and adds a third coffee cup to the page. I don't mind fussy cutting these elements, but if you're not a fan of fussy cutting, Bramble Fox has a new die that matches items on paper snip sheets. The die is on my wish list because it cuts circles, tabs, and tags perfectly. Alright, so I'm going to add the hues from my color palette to this top corner. I want to add some yellow and red to match the sticker here. The flower also has some of the green that's on the book, so I'm going to tuck it under here. These coffee cup perspectives are pale pink, so I'm going to add that color with this pink and gold sticker. Over the top of the two pieces, I'm going to place that coffee cup and layer the blue phrase over the top. Now my corner has yellow, red, pink, and blue over a soft muted brown. All of these match the elements at the lower part of the photo and creates a nice diagonal flow across the photo. I'm going to bring in another floral element above my title to match the one at the top. I'm going to go ahead and finish this page, add some stitching and a couple of other details, then I'll bring back this layout and show you the finished design. Off camera, I added a soft pink bow and some pink enamel dots, which I sprinkled on the page. I also added a few florals below the photo to bring more weight to this area and frame that photo even more. I think my favorite part is the gold embossed stencil on the vellum. I love how it creates such a beautiful background on my page. Today I shared a gorgeous way to create a gold embossed design on vellum with a stencil from Bramble Fox. Vellum does a great job of muting a background pattern, and adding those gold shapes really enhance the design of this page. I chose to record the comforts of home using a perspective from Bramble Fox and brought in some books, coffee mugs, and paper snip elements from the November Fox box to help record the memory. I hope that all these techniques I shared with you today inspire you to try something new. If you're one who enjoys pinning projects to inspiration boards, I have added these photos to my website and to the Bramble Fox Friends group for you to save. I want to thank you again for joining me as I created another scrapbook project. If you would like to see more of my projects, you can visit my channel or follow Miss Carrie's Creations online. If you have any questions about the project or the supplies listed below, feel free to leave me a comment. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I can't wait to see what you create.